Hey guys, join me on my boiling hot walk this morning. It's so hot. I'm not with my daughter this morning. It's pretty much too hot for her to be with me. It's also smoky outside from wildfires, so I chose not to bring her with me. So don't mind the sweat on my face. I wanted to talk about extremism in the community today because I think it's a really important topic, and it's something that comes up in my conversations with people a lot who are going through withdrawal or adverse reactions or both, or tapering, or whatever the situation might be. And this comes up a lot, and we're always kind of pulling it apart in conversation because there is a lot of extremism in this community. And what I mean by that is we talk very much in black and white terms, sort of in these blanket statements. And I understand that there are things that pretty much straight across the board apply to most people in this community, but there's also a lot of people sharing personal things that have, say, made them feel worse, or things that they've become to fear in their journey. And I understand that everybody needs a place to express, everybody needs support, but the general consensus when I talk to people is that aside from the symptoms that they're experiencing, what's bringing them so much fear is things that they've read and conversations they've had with people in the community that talks in extremes. So I've made videos about different topics surrounding this in the past. One of them was tapering. I do believe that tapering is not something that is black and white. In my own journey, I believe that if I hadn't have come off the benzos specifically at the speed that I did, I'm not sure I would be here today. And I had the community not only encouraging, but actually threatening, you need to do this and stop asking questions or you're gonna be banned. Like, I got a warning point on one of the forums, like a child would get, for asking questions about things like turmeric and things like chamomile tea. And if I expressed that they made me feel better, it was right away extremism. That acts on GABA receptors, that acts on, no, you can't have that, you can't. And if I would just question it, I got a warning point. Not only that, but they were telling me that after, I think it was 2 months of benzo use, that I should be doing a 2-year taper. Now that might be the case for people who are stable and maybe not in a full-blown withdrawal, or people who come to this information when they're in a good place, and it might apply to other people as well. And please don't take this as I'm encouraging anyone to do something apart from what their current plan is that might be best for them. I'm just saying that not every situation applies to everyone. So they were telling me, you need to do a 2-year taper, you need to get stable. That was not the right thing for me. And I've talked to other people too who are in much better places now, who went against I'm not talking about going against medical advice. I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to your doctor. Like, if you have a well-meaning doctor, you have a benzo-wise doctor or whatever. I'm just saying that not everything applies to everyone. Tapering is one thing, but also, if you go, there used to be a website called Cesspool of Madness, and I'm not advocating that is a good place at all. I think it's been shut down. And I'm like dripping sweat. The whole purpose of the website was to pull stories from benzo buddies, highlight them, and be like, look how dangerous this is. And the guy that ran it I don't think he was mentally well. He seemed a little bit like a jackass, but the whole point of the website was good, I think, in the sense that the stories that he would pull and highlight were examples of this extreme thinking. So, I mean, it was, to take all of those types of stories and put them in one place was quite horrifying to read, because, I mean, people were literally afraid of everything, you know, in those stories. They were encouraging people to not smell their neighbor's barbecue because that could damage them. Don't eat bacon. Don't eat salmon. You know, be careful of, you know, if there's a drop of alcohol in hand sanitizer. And again, there's people who have sensitivities and who have, you know, issues with certain things. But to put it out there like, don't do this because this is what's going to happen. I mean, again, I don't know how many conversations I've had with people that have become so afraid of literally everything. They're almost afraid to move. Like, don't overexert yourself. Don't have sex. You know, eat 2 foods and that's it. Be afraid of the weather. Be afraid of the heat. Be afraid of, I mean, literally everything. And it's one thing if you have a certain trigger yourself that consistently causes issues, then obviously it's logical for you to maybe limit your exposure. But to hop on these forums and say, guys, this hits GABA, this hits GABA, this hits GABA, this hits GABA, I mean, you will drive yourself insane. And like, if you carry this type of thinking into other things, like if you look at diet culture, most of the times when you talk in extremes, it leads to eating disorders. You know, you have to be afraid, you know, this food is bad, this food is bad, this food is evil, dangerous, unsafe, fattening, toxic, however you label it. If you start using extreme labels, and I've never struggled with an eating disorder myself, at least not a diagnosed one. I've had issues with, you know, binging or comfort eating, but not to the point where it's pathological or it's really like affected my life severely. But in the diabetes community, which I speak of quite often because I've been involved in diabetes communities the whole time I've been diabetic, although I left the online communities years ago because I was developing extreme thinking, and it can hugely impact your quality of life. And people on there, I mean, there were whole groups dedicated to the demonization of carbs, talking about, well, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat this. You know, if you have more than 30 carbs a day, you're going to go blind, you're going to have kidney failure. And again, awareness is power and knowledge is power. But once you get into these extreme thinkings, it can cause way more problems than it solves. So that's, you know, diet culture. And I'm not trying to be political. I'm not trying to take a stance here on politics or religion, but I've shared about my own spiritual journey and how it's been impacted by psych drugs. And I'm still in the middle of figuring that out, where I stand, whether I'm still in the faith or not. I don't really know. I'm still trying to figure that out. And I am someone who was raised with extreme religious beliefs. And my own personal story is, when my life was going relatively smoothly, like when I was younger and I hadn't been impacted by the traumatic things that eventually happened to me, psych drugs and other things, it was easier for me to follow and adhere to the beliefs I had been raised with. But once I started going through traumatic experiences, and I've had several, including the psych drug fiasco, I think it's healthy to sort of step back, take a bit of a moderate approach or an in-between approach, and just start exploring, is this really what I want to, the way that I want to think? Because there are people that I know who have taken the way that we were raised and taken it even more extreme. And objectively, I can see how it can lead, and I've talked to people as well, where it can lead to trauma, religious trauma, abuse, justified by scripture and spiritual terms. And so again, it's kind of that extreme thinking. And so me personally, to find balance in my life, and the way that I approach talking to people about psych drugs is let's stay in our own experience and figure out what is best for you. And so the way that we kind of break that down in conversation is when you talk to people in depth about their past psychiatric drug use, whether they tapered, what that experience was like, how the trajectory typically goes for them. In my experience, that's a better indicator of what might work better for someone than these blanket statements and these blanket ideologies where, you know, we're thinking in extremes, we're thinking in black and white. Anything in life doesn't work when it's black and white. I mean, everybody's so individual. Their genetics are different, their individuality, their needs, their upbringings, their family, their even reinstatement. Again, if you talk about it in black and white terms, it is too much. Because if you say reinstatement never works, or if you say, well, reinstatement should always work because you were fine on the drug before, both of those are inaccurate for everybody. I have seen absolutely, totally successful reinstatements. I've seen disastrous reinstatements. I've seen, you know, people come off the drug quickly. It was the best thing for them. I've seen them come off quickly and it was a disaster. So again, pulling away from these extremes is helpful for a lot of people, and it provides a lot of comfort, because if they've been spending a ton of time in these groups, and a lot of them are extreme, they just freak out more and more and more. And they're like, what if this is me? What, you know, I didn't do things the way they said, and now what? Even if they're not experiencing ramifications of that, they have so much fear surrounding it that it's driving them into these like panic, complete debilitating panic states. So anyway, I don't want to ramble on too long. I'm going to end this video, but what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree? What has your experience been like? And yeah, how are you doing? Let me know, and I'll chat with you guys next time. Bye.